Story number 1. I may have SA a girl in college during a blackout. R/stories Reddit stories. Basically the title, I had serious depression issues during college, not an excuse, just context, caused/worsened by my drinking. I was one of those drinkers who would never be able to go out and social drink. If I had one beer, it would always end in a blackout. I lived with 3 other guys and they were not the same kind of drinker I was, and they honestly tried to help me as much as a college-aged kid can help another college-aged kid with drinking problems. Anyway, there was one night during one of the blackouts where I have snippets of memory of taking a girl back to the house from the bar. I remember talking with her in the kitchen. Our kitchen was upstairs and my room was in the basement, and then I just remember being on my bed with her and in the beginning stages of going further. I kind of remember her saying no at some point to me taking her shirt off, but I don't have much memory of anything else. I woke up the next morning and there was an unused condom in the trash, but I've just heard enough stories about how I act when I'm blacked out that I don't feel like I stopped when she said no. I don't have any concrete proof one way or the other, and I was in such a fucked up headspace it didn't really weigh on me much then because I justified it as, I was hammered. If something bad did happen I'll hear about it. I wish I could say it was the wake-up call and I quit drinking the next day, but it wasn't. It took more years, a couple OWIs, public intoxications, and a few days in jail for me to wake up. This was almost 10 years ago and I honestly have no idea if I'd recognize the girl again if I saw her, but now that I'm sober it eats at me. I'm terrified it's something this poor girl is carrying around and will carry around for the rest of her life. Of all the shitty things I've done during drinking, this is the one that makes me the sickest because I just don't know. Edit, just wanted to add more info here because I can't keep up with comments. I've been sober for coming up on 4 years and the incident took place 10-ish ago. Obviously still too late, but if I had the ability to retroactively change things I'd go back to the first time I drank and just stop it there. I'm fairly certain we didn't have intercourse, but obviously unable to be 100%, and that's not good enough. I hope that after she said no it ended there and I threw the condom away once it became apparent nothing was going to happen. Since the unused condom was in the trash I would assume she threw it away because I can't imagine I was worried much about proper disposal of anything at that point. I'm absolutely not trying to blame this on alcohol. I'm accountable for my actions drunk or sober. Story number 2. I am realizing I was a monster around women. This happened almost a year ago. The first time I went clubbing I got nearly blackout drunk. I started dancing with another girl who was also nearly blackout, and we started grinding, and I ended up grabbing her breasts. Her friends got upset and I got asked to leave by security. Her friends came to the conclusion we were both just too drunk, and I didn't get in any trouble. A different night I ended up drinking way too much and going out with a group of friends. Me and this girl had made out the night previously and I kinda assumed the same thing would happen again. We started dancing and she was not interested in me. I realize in hindsight how obvious this was. She clearly was into another guy there and wanted nothing to do with me. She was working at a hostel I was saying, and she said she was working that night and couldn't do anything, which I understand now was a polite way or saying no. I at some point leaned in and kissed her. She smiled gently and kept dancing. At the end of the night I asked her for a kiss again and she smiled and we made out again. I felt so horrible the day after. I never held her or anything. But it was so painfully obvious how weird and creepy my behaviors was in hindsight. Over the last year I came to understand just how scared girls are of guys in general. And I definitely pressured her into doing something she didn't want to. Nothing like this has happened since. And I still have times where I feel horrible about it. I really wish I could apologize to her, but I feel reaching out now would be super weird. I recently gave up drinking. I just never want to ever put someone in that situation again. I talked to a few of my female friends about this incident, many of them victims of sexual assault. They said that while these incidents are bad, it is pretty minor on the scale of stuff they have experienced. and that I should let go of the guilt as long as I never do anything like that again. I am having so much trouble accepting this. I feel deep down I am a monster. I never wanted to pressure these girls into doing things they didn't want to, and I thought what I was doing at the time was just how guys got girls in clubs. Hell, I even remember my adults telling 15-year-old me grabbing girls' asses was just something that happened in clubs and it was okay. None of this to justify what I did. I had such fucked ideas of what consent meant back then. I don't know if I can ever move on. Story number 3. I lied about college for over a year, and this week, if not today, I'm being forced to come clean. I've always had a hard time with lying about school. In elementary and middle school I was seen as a gifted kid, but, especially when it came to math, I just wasn't doing the work or understanding the concepts. I lied a lot about my homework load, and every time my parents found out they'd get mad. In high school it was still an issue, and it made me nervous going into college because it was a habit I couldn't seem to kick. I just felt this need to seem smart, like I knew what I was doing, but when I didn't understand the work my brain wanted to just quit. At the beginning of college I was doing okay, making A's, B's, and C's. However, I could slowly start to feel the burnout. Then COVID hit. I know a lot of people use COVID as an excuse or a fallback for mental health problems, but it's a big factor. I started to struggle with getting work in and finding motivation to study the material. I really did try in the beginning, but my willpower to try was fading. Then the guilt started. I kept telling my parents I was fine and that college was going well. I didn't want to seem weak or dumb or lazy. But the guilt from the lies ended up making the burnout worse. I ended up getting put on academic suspension for a semester and kept it from them, saying that I was still taking classes. I submitted an appeal to the school and got approved to rejoin for summer classes. My academic advisor warned me not to take summer classes since they are more intense, but I felt the need to catch up on credits, so I did anyway. Big mistake. I am now on academic suspension for a full year, the year ending this summer, and I still haven't told them. I keep telling myself it's not the right time or that I can hide it a bit longer, but it is now time for taxes and my mom needs my college tax form. I have one from the summer courses, but it's 1/8 what it normally is and she's going to see it. I live with my parents and they pay for insurance, food, shelter, all of that. I am, however, working 2 part-time jobs to pay for my own college expenses, so it's my own money I'm spending. They've always told us that college isn't for everyone and that we can live at home for free as long as we went to college. I'm scared I'm going to shatter their hearts and trust in me. I'm super close with my mom and hiding this has been killing me for so long. I don't want her pity, but I also don't want her anger. I have no clue how this is going to turn out. I don't even know how I want it to turn out. I'm just so scared. Story number 4. I caused my friend's parents to have to change their home phone number. I was in 7th grade in the late 90s. We had a middle school newspaper called The Press. Well, someone thought it would be a good idea to have kind of like a classified section called Happy Ads, where you could spend 50 cents to leave your friends encouraging messages. I took out an ad that read Pokemon cards for sale, call ********, but I used the home phone number for a kid in our friend group. He ended up getting so many calls, his parents were livid and complained to the school. I guess once people figured out it was fake they started calling even more and at all hours of the night. I never told a single person that I did it and felt really terrible that a small prank got so out of hand. One teacher suspected that it was me, but I always denied having anything to do with it. Story number 5. I abandoned my daughter 13 years ago because of how young I was. I grew up in a very abusive home. My stepfather was a terrible man and my mother did nothing. I got pregnant and after giving birth I wanted to be there for my daughter, but after a few weeks/months I just couldn't handle the abuse anymore. So I made the most selfish choice in my life and I ran away at 15/16. I can't remember my exact age, I was probably closer to 16 at the time. I'm 28 now and I found out the jerks abandoned her and was contacted about taking her in. So now I'm traveling to see her, and I know she probably hates me. I'd hate me, I'm a mess. I have done a lot of bad stuff to survive. I'm a hooker and scammer, but the one thing I truly regret was abandoning her and I can never make up for that. Story number 6. I assaulted someone when I was in middle school thinking it was okay. I haven't told this to anyone and I know I don't deserve to be forgiven. I am going to put the possibilities after the crime because I don't want people to take this lightly. When I was in 7th grade I assaulted a girl by touching her boobs without her consent. Segment for my excuses, I guess. I was always a loner and had to move countries with my mom and her boyfriend because he did something illegal. Turns out the lawyers scammed them and there wasn't something illegal, in 6th grade. They would always fight and sometimes it would get physical where me and my mom would have to hide in a room. We moved back to my country around the start of 7th grade. I met some guys at school and I guess I wanted to be like them. I don't know how I wasn't able to tell that they were terrible beings. They would play with girls and stuff, so I guess I thought it was fine to be like them. So it happened after a while. She didn't show signs she was mad, but I can't even imagine how bad it must have felt. I have been dealing with depression for 5 years now. After staying at psych ward I got better, but I still hate myself so much that I have really hard time not hurting myself. There is literally no medicine left for me to try, and if my doctors knew about how intense this feeling is they would put me in psych ward again for ketamine treatment, which is a new method, so I couldn't get it outside of hospital. I don't think about this incident most of the time, but I know it is always at the back of my head, and when it comes to front I can't even describe the anger I feel. I gained weight just so if I couldn't kill myself I would die young from heart attack. I would always hit my head to sink, walls, etc. I cut myself many times. I attempted suicide many times, but I could only actually follow it up once. I just want to stumble across her and apologize and ask her what she would like me to do. I am fine with killing myself if she says so. I am going to tell this to my therapist, but if I do I feel like she is going to make me feel less guilty somehow. I am also going to tell this to my only friend ever whom I met 2 months ago, even if she decides that she doesn't want me around anymore. Story number 7. I bullied someone and I got away with it by changing my appearance. When I was 12 years old, I'm not from USA, I was studying at school from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. At 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. the schoolyard was always full of students who wait for the school bus or waiting their parents to pick them up. So once at 6 p.m. I was in the yard waiting my mom to pick me up, and while waiting I was trying to make new friends. I met a guy who was younger than me by a year. We started giggling about random stuff, and I started mocking him sarcastically. Once I felt that I have control over the situation, I took it to the next level and I slapped him jokingly, but he took it seriously and he walked away and started crying. My mom finally arrived and took me home. It was a normal day, except that at the time I had a very long hair. I was looking at myself in the mirror and my hair was awful, so instead of going to the barber like always, I decided to cut my own hair. So I took my pair of scissors and cut my own hair, but it didn't work. I showed the haircut to my mom and she took me immediately to the barber to cover up the mess that I did. Unfortunately the barber had no option except shaving my whole hair and make me bald, and that's exactly what happened, and I eventually became bald. The next day at school I was brutally bullied by my classmates because I was bald. We started the session as usual, and suddenly one of the guys in the school administration showed up. This guy was well known by his severity, and he was accompanied by the student that I bullied the day before, so apparently he was looking for the guy who bullied him, who was me. The guy from the school administration ordered all the students of my classroom to stand up, and the guy who get bullied started scanning faces to recognize the person who bullied him, who was me, but fortunately he couldn't recognize me because I was bald, so I eventually got away with it. NB, I'm not proud of bullying someone and getting away with it. I'm just surprised how my bald head saved me from punishment, especially that I didn't plan to go bald in the first place. Story number 8. I split an edible with my sister and I regret it so much. My sister has told me she's smoked weed before a couple years ago, nothing too serious, she was safe and with her trusted friends, didn't seem like she's make a habit of it. When I found this out, I've never smoked anything, never got high/drunk, so I was surprised to say the least. Today we hung out because I'm visiting from college and I'm staying at my mom's. I'm pretty open with her about weed stuff, and have been high around her a few times. She was never uncomfortable and I always asked permission before taking an edible, that's the only way I got high at the time. Today she revealed to me that she snagged our mom's dab pen and has been taking occasional hits off of it and she brings it to her friend's house and stuff. So I spontaneously asked if she wanted to split in 10 milligrams edible with me, and she agreed. She's never had an edible before, so this was kind of a first, and it was only about 5 milligrams, so I figured it wasn't a huge deal, and it's not. She enjoyed herself and was on her phone listening to music and on TikTok and stuff. Now she's sleeping and I can't sleep because I just feel so guilty. I didn't say this in the beginning, but my sister is 14 and I'm 19. We're very close, we've been through a lot together and I wanted to bond with her because I feel like we're losing the connection we used to have with me being moved out and in college. I didn't have any intent of hurting her or anything, I just wanted to have a good time with her. I shouldn't have done it though, I feel ashamed of myself. She's still young and I shouldn't be condoning this kind of thing. I'm the big sister, I'm supposed to be better than this. Even though nothing bad happened, I'm so sorry. Story number 9. I disabled appliances in my house because my landlord refused to pay for oil she used. I thought I won the lottery when I moved into a new house a friend had recently bought. She bought the house for the sole purpose of renting it out and I decided to rent the top floor, making it my own little studio with a big roof terrace. The bottom floor had their own outside area. The way it was explained to me, the roof terrace was part of my studio. The house used to be a hostel and was sold with everything still in it, and it was quite a mess. I got a few friends over for the weekend to clean everything up, buy a few new things like outside furniture, and make it look pretty. It was hard work, but afterwards it looked amazing, especially the roof terrace, which I turned into my own slice of meditation/lounge heaven. After about a month my friend decided she was going to move out of her own house, to rent it out and make more money, and move in with us, but there was no room available, so I wondered what her plan was. Turns out she wants to take part of the roof terrace and turn it into her room. So I argued it was part of what I rented. Turns out she meant I could use it while she allowed it, but it wasn't part of my rental. Of course we argued, but when it got to the point of fighting and losing a friend and a house, I decided to budge and adjust the roof terrace to fit her room. To her credit, she only took 60 sq ft, but it was a sign of things to come. Long story short, she was cheap, was slow with fixing things around the house, always sought the cheapest solutions that would break again quickly, would put a timer on the hot boiler so there would often be no warm water for showers, would constantly complain about leaving lights on, etc., etc. But what finally pushed my buttons to my confessional was when she took my motor oil, a full gallon, and put it in her car. When I came home and saw it missing, she first denied until she couldn't deny no longer. She then admitted but refused to pay for the replacement. We had a huge fight and I told her I'm going to look for a new house. In the weeks following, I disabled the washing machine, the oven, the fridge, the locks, and her car. She had to fix all of them, costing her way more than just replacing my oil. She never suspected it was me for some reason, and I left 3 weeks later never to speak to her again. I never told anyone 'cause it makes me look petty and vindictive, but I'm not sorry at all, maybe even a little bit proud that I stood up for myself. Story number 10. When people thought I was dating my brother. This all happened about 20 years ago. My brother is just over 1 year younger than I am. We both ended up going to the same specialized high school for math and science. Because it was specialized, it was further away than our feeder school would have been. So, as soon as I was legally able, I started driving myself and my brother to and from school to avoid the hour or more long bus ride. Well, at some point, a guy in my class, R, asked me, so, you're dating brother's name now? Me, confused, no, what gave you that idea? He goes home with you all the time. Me, sigh, what is my last name? Last name. Me, what is brother's last name? First syllable of last name. Oh. He's your brother. I thought your brother was the tall red-headed guy in the class below us. My brother and I look nothing alike. Though we are full siblings, I have pale skin, freckles, red hair and I'm 6 feet 1 inch. My brother has brown hair and darker-hued skin that tans, and, while my brother is tall, he's not taller than me. The funny thing was, when I told my brother about this later that day, he said he had that almost the exact same conversation with a guy in my grade, down to asking him what my last name was and everything. I still find this story funny to this day.